We're going to get ready to start. And first, what we're going to do is stand, and Legislator Cody is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Thank you. This is our first day of budget review. I just have a couple of announcements. Emergency exits, the front and the back of the room. Please sign in the front of the room. Also, if you are going to be speaking, please make sure you use your microphones. There's microphones along the back railing for anyone in the audience that has asked a question. I think that's it. We're all set to go. We're going to start off with the county executives with budget and the financial aspects of the county. So Christy, if you want to go ahead.
I appreciate it. Thank you. So good morning. I'm pleased to be here today to review the 2026 executive budget. Before I begin, I want to just take a moment to thank my finance team. They're extremely dedicated and talented public servants, and without them, I wouldn't be able to do my job. A special thank you to Jason Dean, Taviat Hughes, Kathleen Kearney, and Aaron Kohler, my senior management team. So on Monday, you heard from the county executive where he provided you with a policy direction and a 30,000-foot view of the 2026 spending plan. My goal for today is to provide you with the details of what is driving the budget from an expense and revenue perspective. Before we get into the formal presentation, I wanted to take a minute to recap the county's current fiscal position. As we discussed in July, the county ended 2024 with a $30 million surplus, marking the fifth consecutive year that we've delivered a large structural surplus. The current general fund balance sits at $209 million, exceeding the 15% goal set by this legislature. We're also projecting to end 2025 with just under a $7 million surplus, an increase from when I presented the first forecast. The county's cash position is strong, and we're seeing earnings on investments that are helping to fund our government. Rating agencies continue to find the county's fiscal, health, and financial management among the best in the nation. The county's current ratings are AA by Standard & Poor and AA2 by Moody Investors. So let's discuss the 2026 budget. As a reminder to some of the newer legislators, we use a baseline budgeting approach when developing the budget. This baseline budget approach entails my team in finance determining the resources necessary to continue existing service levels at next year's costs. With over $1 billion budget, we have inherent cost increases if we do nothing. This means the county's budget grows every year without making a single decision. Each year we have contractual wage increases, the associated benefit costs, mandate increases, supply, utility, and contractual escalators. Once we have compiled the baseline expenses, we then compare them to where we believe revenue will be. In the last few budget cycles, we've been fortunate that revenue estimates have exceeded expense growth. However, in preparing for this 2026 budget, that was not the case. We had a structural deficit for the first time in years. Fortunately, during the years of structural surpluses, we purposely tried to avoid standing up spending that would continue on an annual basis. Where possible, we made strategic decisions to invest in infrastructure improvements, upgrades to our vehicle fleet, technology investments, and one-time expenses that would result in increased sales and property tax in future years. As a result of this strategy, we were able to identify areas in the 2026 baseline budget that could be reduced without impacting a department's ability to provide current services. We will discuss this as we go through the 2026 executive budget. Let's get to the first slide. Here you will see our multi-year projection. When preparing next year's budget, we feel that it's not only important to review prior year actuals, the projection for the current year, but also to look out a few years to determine how known pressures will impact the county financially. So on this slide, you will see the 2024 actuals, the updated projection for 2025, which has improved since I was here in July, as a result of continued strong performance on interest and earnings, salary savings as a function of vacancies and turnovers, and controlled expenses. A balanced budget for 2026, or the reason we're all here today, and projections for 2027 and 2028. We're projecting a $16 million deficit in 2027 and a $30 million deficit in 2028. Obviously, there's a lot of assumptions that go into these out-year projections. For example, a flat property tax levy, conservative sales tax growth, and continued baseline expenditure growth, whether it be salaries, benefits, or mandates. The wild card in the out years is the state's financial position. I bring this up as this is a real area of concern for me. In recent years, we've had to absorb the increased costs related to several mandated programs, and with the recent changes at the federal level, the state's financials will be under even greater pressure. I'm concerned on how these costs might be pushed down to local municipalities. We will continue to monitor this and assess the potential fiscal impacts and how to absorb these increases. So in review, we've had several years of large surpluses, a balanced budget for 2026, and then some storm clouds on the horizon as we see sales tax come back to historical norms, baseline growth exceeding revenue, and potential pressures from the state and federal government. It's my commitment to the county executive, this legislature, and to our constituents to continue to deliver fiscally responsible, balanced budgets. So let's get into the 2026 executive budget. Before I discuss the expense and revenue drivers, I wanted to review this slide about where our local dollars go. I think it's very valuable for the legislature to get an overall context of where our money goes. In 2026, we're projecting almost $532 million of local dollars. Just a reminder, when I say local dollars, I'm referring to sales tax and property tax. As you can see from this chart, 72% or $380 million of all local dollars go to just two programs. Mandates at $220 million and public safety at $160 million, leaving just 28% or $151 million to fund everything else. So our parks, our roads, our libraries, our back office functions. So let's talk about the general fund expenditures versus the 2025 adopted. All of the numbers that you're going to see up here are variances and not the total appropriations. This variance-based presentation, I think, will allow you to better understand what's driving the budget. So right out of the gate, without doing anything, we have a $5 million increase in salaries. This includes a 3% increase for management and confidential at $1.1 million, $5.7 million of regular salary and wage increases. So this includes our contractual increases for contracts in place or that will be in place next year, and estimates for those contracts that are expired or will be expired at the end of this year. We estimate those costs of what those might be so that we have the funds to cover the expenses when contracts are negotiated. In 2026, we also included a 1% or $1.8 million anticipated salary savings due to routine turnover and vacancies. Based on our fiscal position the last several years, we have not needed to do so, but in order to close the gap in 2026, we have reinstated traditional salary savings at 1% countywide. Next are the benefits that go along with salaries, up $5.7 million. On this next slide, you'll see the breakout of benefits. So there's a lot of information on this slide, and I will send it over afterwards so everybody can see it because I know it's a little small up here. But so starting at the top, our health insurance benefits are up $1.1 million or 1.5%. This is well below the industry average of about 7 to 9%. And then if you break it out down at the bottom, there's several categories within health insurance, so I just want to go through those on the bottom here. So you'll see $51.2 million for the active on-point plan, a $1 million increase from 2025, a 29% increase for our Medicare Advantage, still significantly lower than the national average, and also lower than what our past provider proposed. In 2023, we conducted an RFP with our partners to provide us a substantial savings in 2024 and known growth over the next several years. Prescription drug costs have remained stable, but we are seeing an increase in our prescription drug rebate program, which is offsetting a lot of the other increases in this category. So that's what makes up the health insurance line. Returning back up to the top of the page, you'll see dental insurance with a small growth of $230,000. We've included some enhanced benefits over the last couple of years to help recruit and retain employees. Retirement contribution up $3.7 million. Our contribution for that is dictated by New York State and is increasing from 15.2% to 16.5% in 2026. Although that is a large increase, we saw a $5 million increase from 24 to 25, so there's actually a reduction this year. You'll see flat workers' comp, and then unemployment, FICA, and disability goes up along with salaries. Did you have a question, Brett?
How are we working this? You asking questions along the way, or?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Are you okay with that, if we ask
Let you
questions
catch your
along the
breath?
way?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so far so good. I mean, honestly, the management of the plans, which, you know, so much of it being self-insured or funded, or some combination of both, those are really good kind of increased numbers comparatively, certainly what's going on in the general marketplace.
Yep.
Every year we ask the question, this is as good a time as any, total fringe as a percent of pay. Last year it was, well, I have it in my notes,
It's just under 50%. It's about the same, but it's just under.
under 50. Okay, thank you. Thanks,
Yeah,
Kristen.
no problem. All right. So you can see the total increase for our employee benefits cost is 3.8% there. That all other insurance includes our property and our liability insurance. And then that gets us to the total of $152 million. We then reduce this by the non-county share, so that's our employee contribution and OCC charges, and further reduce it by the fund balance of $4.8 million, which is in line with what was budgeted in 2025. So that gets us down to $127.8 million that is then spread by funds. So you can see for general fund, $98.8 million, sewer, $12.7, and all other funds, $15.9. So bringing that back around and tying that back out to our variance file, that's a $5.7 million increase in the gen fund for employee benefits. So the next expense driver is our contractual expenses, increasing $5 million. The primary drivers here are our correctional health contract escalators and off-site mental health services at just under $1 million. State-funded mental health contracts at 2.3, that's fully reimbursed by New York State at 100%, so you'll see the associated revenue in later slides. Family court attorney contracts at $1 million. This is a result of the increased number of judges in the family court and difficulty in recruiting county attorneys. The goal is to bring on county attorneys and reduce or eliminate the need for this cost moving forward. And the last is additional $250,000 in village infrastructure improvements per the 10-year agreement that this legislature passed in 2019. So far we have salaries at $5 million, benefits at 5.7, contracts at $5 million, and the next category is kind of a catch-all, all other, where you're going to see a reduction of $4.2 million. So let's dig into that a little bit. So the first driver under the all other category is room occupancy tax, which is increasing by $870,000 in 2026. We are projecting a collection of $14.1 million in 2026. This year's amount was $13.2. Jason, can you turn to the next slide, please? Thank you. Okay, so the 2026 ROT allocation includes investment in one new initiative this year, our convention center district. So revitalizing our convention district through items such as signage, facility improvements, walkability, emerging technologies and companies will assist us to attract bigger and better events. Big events love to be hosted in innovation hubs where they can partner with local startups. These convention visitors will drive more sales tax and room occupancy tax as they tend to spend more per day than our typical tourists do. The next category under all other is our other than personnel expenses with a decrease of $4.5 million. As I discussed in the beginning of the presentation, we had a structural deficit when we started 2026. In order to balance the budget, we had to make some reductions. I previously talked about the salary savings we instituted. We also instituted reductions in vehicles in the general fund, just under $1 million. In the last 3 budget cycles, we've been able to double, and in some cases triple, the historical investment in our vehicles. So the 2026 budget reduces vehicles back down to the historic norms. Interfund, which is our general fund support for other funds such as county roads and libraries. Like the general fund, we implemented salary savings and vehicle reductions, and we also made a reduction in cash for capital in DOT. Historically, the cash for capital in DOT was the required match for federal programs, approximately $1 million. In 2023, we were able to include funding above the required match in the tune of $10 million to offset bonding requests. In 2024 and 2025, $5 million. In 2026, we reduced that down to an additional $1.5 million over the required match. And the final component of all other is our debt service, down $634,000 for the general funds and funds that the general fund supports. So on this chart, you'll see debt service by the general fund, the sewer fund, and the water fund. We continue to manage debt well and are using quite a bit of reserves here to keep debt costs down. Interest and earnings on investments gets allocated on a cash balance, so a portion of this goes to our debt service fund, allowing us to reduce debt. The goal is always to keep debt as level as possible year over year, but when there's need for major infrastructure improvements, that's not always possible. We are seeing this in the sewer fund, and we'll continue to see this in out years. On this slide, you can see the total debt service is relatively flat from last year. However, you're seeing an increase in the sewer fund and a decrease in general fund. So that, yeah, go ahead.
Before we're moving really fast. I'm
Yep.
trying to so-call this. I'm going to back up. I got a couple questions.
Sure.
First, going back to ROT and the new convention center district. I don't know if this fits in the budget any place else, and if it does, I won't ask my question. But presuming it
Oh, sure.
doesn't, can you, and some of us have had conversations and have a little bit better of an idea, but can you talk about the scope of that initiative? Not the details, but just high level, because it's probably broader than most people think as far as what that new convention center district initiative will involve.
Yeah, so obviously, it's our main convention district down in, the downtown area. And obviously, as we've gone to other conventions and working with Visit Syracuse, a lot of the drivers are the walkability. So, whether that be streetlights, lanes, those type of things, improvements to, oh, black screen.
Is that Julie?
Sorry, I got distracted. Shiny object. So, it's all of those things, better signage, wayfinding, those different things. And then also partnering with the emerging technologies and businesses that are really driving in convention business and, that they like to partner with. So we can certainly get you kind of more detail of the whole overall scope that's still being developed.
I think for the sake of this discussion, I guess the answer I am looking for, just to confirm, is it really ranges from where we want to have a hotel to where the tech garden sits, and all points in between, including the county campus. That's what we're talking about.
Yes, that's what we're talking about.
Okay,
Sorry.
cool. And then, thank you. My next question is on the interfund.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to reconcile in my brain how we can, are we lowering internal price? How does that, how do you get there?
Basically, the interfund is basically the transfer that we do to basically zero out the road fund and the library fund. So by decreasing and putting salary savings in the Department of Transportation,
Okay.
libraries, and vehicle reductions, the amount of money we transfer from the general fund over to those funds to balance them out decreases.
So that's how you get
Yep, and in the budget book pages where you'll actually see the decreases are actually in those departments. So you'll see it in your transportation department, your library department. So you'll see the reductions in those lines, and then it's just the foot that balances them out in the revenue line from the general fund.
Yeah, I was just trying to,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions on the all other? All right. So next is mandates. The county's largest expense driver. We're seeing a $25.6 million increase from 2026 from 2025 adopted. So let's dig into that a little bit. $2.7 million for special children's services. So in preschool and early intervention, we're seeing increases in the number of children receiving services, as well as anticipated rate increases from the state. Foster care, $3.2 million. Cases have stabilized, as we discussed in the first quarter forecast in foster care. However, New York State just implemented a 6% rate increase in July of 2025, so that's driving your increased costs in 2026 for foster care. Safety net and family assistance, $8.3 million and $2.8. The drivers of this cost are rising emergency shelter costs and caseload increases. So we've seen a 5% increase in caseloads in safety net and an 11% increase in family assistance. And the family final category, daycare, $9.2 million. This is based off of our state allocation, our required maintenance of effort, and an additional $750,000 of local support for daycare. However, the current wait list that was implemented in June will remain in place until caseloads reach a level where expenditures and revenues balance. So that's our mandated service programs. Just a reminder too on the mandated services, these all have state and federal contributions, so you'll see the increases when we go through the revenue. So those are just gross appropriations. Yes?
Yeah, a couple of questions on this. Okay, so these are the local dollars, and those numbers that you gave before
No,
were
so
also...
that's the gross appropriation increase that you see there.
Okay, and then we'll see local dollars in here, you're saying?
The local dollars are in the departments.
Okay,
And you'll see the revenue on the offset, so you'll see state and federal aid going up significantly when we get through the revenue slides.
okay. And then my other question is, how do we classify something as a mandate in this category?
So they're required by New York State, and we don't actually have a choice. We have a contribution percentage if we wanted to. So we could never, obviously, eliminate foster care or anything like that. So it's
Yep.
dictated on state and federal regulations.
Okay, so we picked these, but aren't things like the sheriff's department mandated by New York State, right? And we can't
So
get
yes,
rid of
we
that,
have to have
right?
police presence, but the scale, scope, and size of that is dictated by locals. There are obviously components of it, but there are decision points at the local level.
Okay, so these are mandates are broken out because the size of them are required by...
No, not the size. So the programs are required. Obviously, we're not going to turn a child away or things like that. So they're the mandated programs through New York State and the federal government that have to be provided.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it's just a bigger conversation that I'm not going to get into here
Yeah,
about
yeah.
how... Yeah.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay.
Good. You're good? Keep going.
Wait one second.
Oh, no, Deja?
Chrissy, you did speak
ma'am.
about daycare and the wait list, and we still have the wait list, right? Is this amount of money going to offset that money that we were missing to open that wait list up?
Not in
and
entirety.
continue?
Not in its entirety. No.
How much is how much are we still missing?
So let me go back and get the most recent numbers based on caseloads, but it was millions that we were talking
Millions.
at times. You know, it's been great that the program has expanded, and, you know, until this point, the state and feds have put money behind it, but now it's the balancing act of, you know, the dollars behind it and what we have available. But I can get you more detail on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. All right, so next let's talk about the one-times. You can see 2.7 million coming off from 2025 and 2.4 million for 2026. So on the left side of the screen, you'll see the 2025 initiatives that were led, Main Street, Senior Center grants, Housing and Child Care Center grants. In 2026, we have flexible lead funding. The 2026 executive budget continues the county executive's commitment to addressing the issue of lead in our community with an additional $1.2 million in flexible lead funding. The budget also includes $200,000 for agricultural tourism grants to grow and enhance agritourism operations. To date, this program has awarded $800,000 to 53 local farms. The third item, New Air, is a pilot program leveraging FAA-approved drones to assist our first responders, providing real-time information when every second counts, and reducing the risk in assessing dangerous situations. And the final initiative is for public safety. It's flexible funding to support safety and surge initiatives that will enhance community security. Our next expense category is the non-county share of sales tax. So in the 2026 budget, we are projecting a 1% growth in 2025 and a 1.5% growth in 2026. So this line is the sales tax to the other municipalities, primarily the city of Syracuse, and also includes the cannabis tax distribution. Our final expense category is our baseline additions or increases to our existing programs. So there's $419,000 in facilities, which includes 3 new positions needed as a result of the additional county facilities we've had added on in recent years, such as the Carnegie Building, the Army Reserve Facility, and it also includes an increase in provision for capital for identified HVAC and roof repairs needed to our existing facilities. In the Sheriff's Department, $300,000 for the expansion of the body-worn camera program in the Custody and Corrections Division, and a $650,000 in economic security for continued implementation of AI technology that improves client services and diverts calls so that staff can focus on eligibility and redetermination activities. I'm sure Sarah will go into further detail in her presentation, but in speaking with her, this technology has saved hundreds of staff hours, allowing them to focus on processing applications and client critical functions.
Sarah, just a quick question. So those 3 new positions are the only 3 positions requested in the entire budget?
So they're the only 3 new funded positions.
Okay,
There are,
everything else is being just switched over?
there may be an up or 2 in a department, but it would be grant funded related. They are the only local dollar positions and
Okay.
increase in funding.
Thank you.
Yep. So we have a total appropriation increase of $40.6 million for 2026. $36.9 million is baseline growth, $295,000 in savings in one-times, a non-county share of sales tax at 2.3, and baseline additions at $1.3 million. So let's talk about the revenue and how these increases are being funded. As the county executive mentioned in his speech, the 2026 levy is flat from last year, reducing the tax rate from $3.31 to $2.93, or an 11% decrease. This equates to a $114 decrease on a $300,000 home. Next is sales tax at 5.8. As I mentioned, we're projecting the 1% sales tax growth in 2025 and a 1.5% in 2026. Current sales tax year-over-year growth for 25 is at 1.2% right now. As we discussed earlier, when we talked about mandates, they have state and federal reimbursement to them, so the majority of the increases, the 10.9 that you see in state and 19.4 is related to our mandated service programs. The final category for revenue is all other, and an increase of $4.3 million. That is a result of the increase we talked about in the room occupancy tax, charges for departments on the city abstract. However, the total city abstract is going down related to property taxes. Bus arm revenue. As you guys are aware, we implemented a school bus safety program that includes stop arm safety cameras to improve safety and transportation of our students, and there will be revenue for fines related to that as well. And the last quarter category is our interdepartmental revenue based on our service departments. So this gets us to a balanced 2026 general fund budget without using any fund balance. If you want, I can stop now and take any more questions regarding the general fund before I get into sewer and the water fund.
Yeah, that sounds good. Julie?
Thank you. I'm just curious, the cannabis tax, do you have any idea how much that's generating?
Yep, so the majority of cannabis tax actually goes to the municipalities where it is. In 2026, we're projecting a little over $1 million that'll go out to them. I don't know where we are right now to date in 25, but I can get back to you on
And
that.
then what, like, if you can give a ballpark, what percentage goes to municipalities?
Oh, is it 75%?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and then,
I got a nod back there. I was like,
no, it's okay. I just was curious, just, it's new, so it's interesting. And then we probably don't, do you have data on the school bus violation fines? It's probably not
So we
huge,
got
but-
some pro forma data from other counties that did it, and the dollars are actually a little staggering. We were very conservative in what we put in the budget for this until we see what it is. But in the first couple years, and hopefully the idea is we won't be getting revenue for this, is to deter that behavior and change, action. So hopefully long-term, we will get very little out of this because it'll change behavior and make, this thing safer for our children.
So what would you project?
I think there's just under $1 million in the budget for it.
Thanks, just curious.
Yep.
Chairman?
The city abstract is going down. I understand the why. Do you know how much it is?
It's about $160,000.
Thank you.
Dan?
Couple of questions. How is the sale or lack of use of the PSB affecting the city abstract?
So I'll have to get back to you on the exact dollar amount that we're charging. So we are the minority owner in that. We're just under 40% owner in that. So about 60% of the costs, for facilities and things like that does get charged out on the city abstract.
Yeah.
I can get you the exact detail of the dollar amount. I don't recall what it is off the top of my head.
And, excuse my not understanding, isn't it on the abstract to make up for that 40% because we no longer use it and the city uses it fully?
No, so because we're owners, it is still split in terms of the costs.
Okay, so that city abstract money is just for that 60%?
Correct.
And we don't plan on selling it in the next 12 months?
Not in the next, or Brian, do you want to?
Yeah, we're exploring that, but we're not in a position right now to be able to program in revenue or reduce expenses.
Okay, and if it is sold, let's say it's sold in the spring or in the summer, will those full year charges still be applied? Or will there be some sort of reimbursement associated with that?
So for the city abstract, we reconcile, so right now the 2026 budget includes 2026 anticipated cost and reconciling 2024 actual costs. So we're always on a 2-year lag. So yes, those would get reconciled as they do every year anyways. So whatever is budgeted gets charged to the city abstract, and then it's a 2-year delay on the reconciliation. So they do get credits for if we underspent based on the budget.
Okay, that's great, thank you. And is that reconciliation shown on the abstract?
Yes, so all of that is provided to the city in terms of the calculations. There are contracts or have been that have agreements on how things are calculated.
Okay, great. Thank you for the clarity on that.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then my other question is on the FTEs, and I'm glad the question was asked about those three. In the changes that go back and forth with grants and everything, it just gets kind of complicated with that. Is there a way for us to look at like actual people changes?
So that's a lot of detail. What we can do and what I do have is we do net up funded by each department. We can certainly get you that so you can see any new positions created and how many funded goes up or down in that department.
Yeah, just like a department, this is, instead of going, came off a
We're
grant.
actually down, and I will pull, I believe in total it's down 31 funded positions from 26 from 25.
Okay. If we can get by department, that would be great.
We can get
Thank
provide
you.
more detail.
Yeah, can you, a list, I know usually Darcy requests it, a list of all of the funded not filled.
Sure,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay.
Just clarification, you
Okay.
said we're down 31 overall funded? Thanks.
Any other, all right.
No, go, you're all set?
Good,
Everybody
thanks.
okay? Yep, go ahead.
Perfect. Let's get into the sewer fund then. For the sewer fund, we use the same strategy as we do for general fund in terms of expenses. The only difference is that WEP is funded primarily by the sewer unit rate. So salaries and benefits are down $1.6 million. However, within that, there was a $400,000 increase for regular salary and wage increases, but there is a decrease of $2 million in the benefits charges. So we charge employee benefits based on prior year's actual. So when we spread between departments based on actual expenses, the sewer fund had a reduction of $2 million in benefits. All other is up by $5.5 million. $2.2 million is utility increases based on a 15% national grid increase. As you guys know, WEP is a huge power user. And then there is $3.1 million to fund actual costs of sludge hauling. And as you guys saw earlier in the slide, an $813,000 increase in scheduled debt. So for the sewer fund, there's a total appropriation increase of $3.9 million. So let's talk about how we're going to pay for those increases. First, we're reducing the allocated fund balance from $11.4 million in 2025 to $7.9 million in 2026. So a reduction of fund balance use of $3.4 million. WEP's fund balance at the end of 2024 was approximately $27 million. If the full $11.4 million budgeted for 2025 gets used, this leaves $15.8 million available for 2025. Therefore, we'll reduce the amount of fund balance being used in '26 to preserve a reserve for this fund as we do in general fund. Based on the increase in expenditures and the reduction in fund balance, the total amount that needed to be collected in sewer unit fees was $7 million. We accomplished this in 2 ways. First, we reduced the gallons per unit from 100,000 gallons to 85,000 gallons, which increases the total number of units in the sanitary district. And the second piece is a unit rate increase of $25, taking the sewer unit charge from $453.58 to $478.58. Although no rate increases are ideal, this is needed to support our existing infrastructure and operations. In preparing for the budget, we did a lot of research on sewer unit rates. The National Association of Clean Water Agencies reports on the national average of wastewater services. The 2025 national average is $645 per unit. The regional average, which is just New York State and New Jersey, is $577 per unit. We went even further and looked into similar sized counties in New York State, and the average rate was $520. I think it's important to put this rate into perspective when we think about utilities in general as well. So the monthly cost of this proposed rate increase would be $39.88 a month. When we look at other utilities and the typical rates in New York State, like our electric is around $110 per month, gas $74, and trash $62. So although this budget proposes a rate increase of $25, this keeps Onondaga County's sewer unit charge well below the national average, the regional average, and even other sized counties in the state. The final category in revenue is an increase of other miscellaneous revenue in the sewer fund of $355,000 related to industrial surcharges. These are additional costs associated with treating high-strength wastewater. Last time these fees were updated was 2013. The chemical costs and energy costs to treat these types of waste has significantly increased in the last 12 years. So this budget includes a modest increase to the industrial surcharges to better align them with our expenses. So on the last page of the sewer fund, Jason, can you switch the slide? The 2026 proposed sewer fund keeps budgeted expenses flat outside of contractual rate increases and includes a necessary unit rate increase to support operational costs and debt service to support our infrastructure maintenance. The last thing that I wanted to go over today is the water fund.
Christy, can I ask
Yeah,
you a question on the
absolutely.
sewer? So I noticed in the book that the units have increased from last year.
Yep, so that is primarily driven by changing the gallons per unit from the 100,000 to
Okay.
85,000 and changes more of the costs to the commercial industrial users, those heaviest users. So
Okay.
every household is one unit, but obviously our commercial and industrial units,
Okay.
it's actually based on the number of gallons.
Okay, because I know we've done a lot of correcting with that over the last couple of years, and I didn't know if that was, that they've made a mistake on that again, or that's just
Nope,
because of
so
that.
the last
Okay.
year, we were very, very, very close
Right,
in terms of that, and we've gotten much better at identifying those units and
Okay.
stuff.
Okay, good.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I could,
Oh.
it's not so much related to just WEP, but it really permeates the whole budget, and you touched on it very briefly. Under maintenance, utilities, and rents, I mean, it's a across-the-board substantial increase in almost every department or in every standalone facility. Rather than talk about it at every turn, maybe we could talk about it now, and just talk about the methodology for that, because even though the average increase was 15, it's not 15. I mean, we have some that are over 20, some, and I know there's other drivers in that budget category.
Yep.
But if you could just kind of expand on it a little bit so that, again, we don't have to talk about it with every department
Sure.
unless it's an anomaly, a
Yep.
super high number.
Yeah, so what we do is obviously we we're constantly monitoring what our utility costs are. So we have trends for years and years, so we kind of understand the cyclical trends in different departments. Obviously parks, when Lights on the Lake is out there, it's a whole lot more expensive out there. So we look at the trends and then also working with the providers in terms of what the increases are. So we have a lot of historical data and run different scenarios for the utilities, but, we're taking a look at the last couple years' actual use based on kilowatt hours or whatever it may be, and then what we anticipate the cost to be able to project out where we think we're going to be in '26.
I'm sorry, as far as that piece is concerned, is it a formulaic approach across the whole county operation, or is it really facility by facility?
It really is. We look at it by facility by facility.
Thank you.
Yeah, because we constantly have different ones coming on too, so trying to make sure that we can, figure out what additional costs may be as we turn on different.
Awesome. That saves about probably 40 questions.
Perfect.
Is there any change in the personnel in there, any increases or any decreases in funded level positions?
In the sewer fund?
Yeah.
Yep, so actually, they are down a total of, give me 1 second so I don't misspeak. I believe it is 25 positions, but that is a little deceiving in the fact that their number of funded positions is down to better align with both the 2025 adopted budget and the 2026. So over the last several years, WEP has used a large salary saving number, almost close to $1 million. So when you see their funded vacant report, although they might be, have 40 or 50 funded positions, they can't really fill all of those based on the dollars. So we worked with the department to really look at their roster and right-size that and right-size the number of funded positions. And I think Odin will talk about it in his presentation, talk about the priority of what positions need to be filled to make that operation run as the best
I'm
it
glad to hear
can.
that. Okay, good.
Colleen?
Question, Dan?
Yep. In terms of the all other and the utilities and that we were speaking about, we know that WEP had projected savings last year, and then we had to go back a couple of times because those projected savings weren't realized. How did you factor in, did we assume those savings again? Did we adjust based on?
So it doesn't have that traditional salary savings number. That's why I'm saying you'll see the decrease in funded positions, so it better aligns with the actual funded positions in those dollars. Or are you
Sorry.
talking about in other lines?
Sorry, I was talking about the utilities. So we had to go back in, I think it was $1.5 million or something like that, when we went back a couple of times.
Yep, so in
because of the
2024,
utility
we
savings.
did have to do that with some of the increases in the utilities. In 2025, we should be within budget in the maintenance and utility line, so we right-sized that in the 2025 budget. The only thing in the 2025 budget that we did a transfer was for the all other, for the sludge hauling, which has been right-sized in the 2026 budget.
Yep. So that's what I'm talking.
So those
Sorry.
are different lines.
Yeah. Okay. So the sludge dryer and the savings associated with the methane burn off and the National Grid savings with that. It's my understanding that when we approved the 25 budget, we had savings in there that we expected, didn't get those, and adjusted appropriately. In the new budget, did we
It is
assume those
funded-
savings again, or how did that?
No, we did not. So we assumed the cost to cover the full sludge hauling for the year in '26. Ideally, we will realize savings, and then we'll be able to put money back into fund balance if that's the case. But we did include those savings to ensure that there was the proper funding in that line.
Okay, so we went back to the full year, no savings, and then expect.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Julie,
You're welcome.
do you have a question on that, Julie?
Just to clarify, that's 3.1 million, am I right?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. And can I ask, if you were, oh, forget it. It's not for you. We'll
We
do
can
it
get
another
in,
day.
obviously, we got
Thank you.
another opportunity at all of this, but good questions, just, we'll get them on another day. Okay?
Yeah,
Thank you.
no problem. Anything else in the sewer fund?
No.
All right, then the last thing I wanted to talk about was the water fund. So the 2026 budget proposes $1 million increase to the levy to establish reserves to fund future water infrastructure improvements to accommodate organic growth that the county is poised to experience. And it equates to a $6 increase on a $300,000 home. But besides that, this one is pretty boring, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I missed the increase. What was that again? Did you say?
$1 million.
Right.
Oh, $6 on a $300,000 home.
Is that a flat rate, or does that go
Correct.
by? Yeah, so any home is going to be $6 increase, you mean?
It is based on the per
Assessed
thousand,
value?
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
What's the million for again?
It's for future water infrastructure improvements. So with some of our aging infrastructure and different things, it's for infrastructure improvements.
Questions? No? Go ahead, you can go ahead.
I am all set. That concludes my presentation.
Dan? What do you got? Okay, yep. Any other questions for Christie before we go to the next section with the CIP? You're good? Okay. We're going to have the CIP. Dan's going to come up and do the
Perfect.
CIP.
Thank you, guys. I have a way better name for that. Come on, let's be real.
What's the name of it? Samsung 85? What's that?
I just have to use this.
All right.
So just use the up and down.
Okay.
You should be able to just see both of them. Should use it down. It's just working. Just use it.
Are you using the,
So use the
just
up.
the up arrow? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
use the
that's
up.
what I was doing. Do I have to?
You shouldn't have to. Oh, we can get these.
Is there an HDMI or something, or?
Seated.
restart my computer just in case.
That's fine, yeah. Try the down one.
you speak a little louder than Christie, but please make sure
Oh, I
you sit
will.
right up near the mic. She
Yeah.
was a little bit further back and was under.
Gotcha. All right. I'll do that, and then I'll mirror down here because I got notes on here too. Yeah, okay.
Okay. Yeah. I never had a gavel when I was supervisor, so I'm not used to it. We're going to start with the capital improvement plan. Dan, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. I'm excited to share with you our capital improvement plan for the next 6 years. We've been working on this for the better half of a year. A lot of cool things in here, a lot of exciting things, so I'm happy to be here and share it with you. Before I start, I'd just like to thank Christy Smiley, Jason Dean, Aaron Kohler, and all the departments, project managers, commissioners, deputies, everybody that was involved in working on the proposals, fine-tuning their scopes, and getting us to where we are now. So thank you all. It's been said that the best way to predict the future is to create it. So that's exactly what we plan to do with this book. It removes the guesswork by outlining our future-defining investments. This slide's just a brief overview of what the book includes. This year, we have 44 projects that have received all of their funding and are now in ongoing and active development. 51 of the projects in this book have yet to receive their entire budget authorization, so they are ongoing projects that are still seeking additional funding. And that gives us our total project number of 95 in the book this year. Of the 95, 9 are new proposals to the book that are included in the new proposals section. And the 6-year total cost of those 9 new proposals accounts to $19.2 million, which is about 1.6% of the entire proposed budget. The 6-year total is $1.17 billion. The debt limit that we have utilized year to date is 11.3%. I'll get into that in a little bit more detail. It's a very complicated calculation. Before I get into the new proposals, I just wanted to share how we prioritize our projects and how we review our proposals before it gets to this stage. So as you can see here, we have a list of metrics and their weighted calculation. The highest metric is urgency of action, so we prioritize any emergency maintenance and repairs. For a lot of those larger projects that require urgent action, doing nothing is simply not an option. Regulatory compliance is also very high up there. We prioritize projects that are required to meet federal and state mandates or permit compliance. Policy alignment, we try to work on project proposals that fit within the scope of the PI agenda. That's poverty, infrastructure, and economic development. Strategic plan consistency, so projects that meet the county's comprehensive plan within the 2023 approved Plan Onondaga. Countywide impacts, projects that have a benefit to the majority or large portion of our residents. Taxpayer cost efficiency, we look at the scale and the financial plan when it comes to funding these projects and making sure we can do everything possible to pursue the use of cash, the use of grants, and the use of strategic debt structures to mitigate or reduce the impact of a debt burden. Public-driven initiatives, we look at the demand from the community for new services, new upgrades, investments in our parks, as well as some of our key stakeholders involved in shaping and growing our county. And then, of course, we also have environmental and sustainability. So we take a look at projects that aim to mitigate any impacts or promote sustainability. Here's a look at the last 10 years of CIP proposals. As you can see, this year is a big one, primarily driven by the demand for investments in our sewer system. It is just shy of the 10-year high of 2023. The countywide, which is in the blue section there, you can see, includes our general fund departments, and the special fund, which is in the green, includes our sewer fund, which is primarily comprised of WEP. The CIP reflects a major investment, like I said, in our wastewater system for both residential and economic growth. I like to say a community's ambition can be measured by the height of its cranes, and if you just take a drive around Onondaga County right now, there's a lot of cranes and there's a lot of activity going on right now. And so county is definitely investing significantly in improving and expanding our services. Here's a breakdown of the proposed funding sources included in this book. The majority, as is the case with most years in the capital plan, is from borrowing. 81% will be over the next 6 years of borrowing to authorize, so not immediate, not next year, but over the next long-term 6 years. 4% of the borrowing is already authorized by the legislature, and we typically issue that bonding after we see actual expenses. 7% is from state aid, 4% from federal. This primarily includes the 50% match that we get on our OCC projects, as well as all the state initiatives that support our road and highway infrastructure. Think CHIPS, POPs, all those fun acronyms. And then 4% is cash for capital. That's budgeted in provisions for capital of the operating budgets for departments. Here's a breakdown by department of the projects included in the book. As is the case with most years, the top 3 projects account for just over half of all of the projects. Those departments being Water Environment Protection with 23 projects, Facilities with 14 projects, and Department of Transportation with 11. This year, we consolidated the project types from 8 to 5 to reduce redundancy. As you can see, from the 5 project types, the largest investment is going towards the renovations and upgrades project type, with maintenance and rehabilitation following closely. Maintenance and rehab actually has one more project listed than renovations and upgrades, but the cost of the renovations is significantly more than your typical maintenance and rehab projects. In order to track the development and progress of our projects, we use 3 metrics. The project status, which assists with trying to figure out where it's at in terms of being proposed, or if it's received some form of authorization. And that's also the way the book is structured, kind of like a narrative of beginning, middle, and end of the progress of the project. Budget status, that gives you an overview on where we are with funding requests. So new projects have not received authorization yet. Some of the ongoing projects have either received full authorization or intend to receive further authorization to complete their scope. And then we have phase status, which looks into specifically the active projects, primarily the ongoing projects, and gives a bit more detail into what's going on in the ongoing. Where are we at? Are we still in the design phase? Are we in construction? Are we just about done? So that gives us additional detail there. Looking at the project status, the vast majority of our projects are ongoing. We have 13 proposed projects. That includes the 9 new proposals. 74 are ongoing. A lot of that is in the ongoing work at WEP, facilities and DOT, as well as ongoing work at Parks and OCC. And then 8 of the projects in this book are completed. So as we did with last year, any projects that have wrapped up and are marked as complete have met their scope and the funding is all set. We include in the book just to provide as a highlight, so when projects are done, they don't just disappear. You know where your investment's going and the work that we have done in the last year. Taking a look at the budget status now, 13 have yet to receive authorization. Again, that includes the 9 new proposals. 38 are partially authorized, so they have received some form of authorized funding, but they plan most likely in a long-term phased approach to receive additional funding depending on which phase they're in. And then, like I said at the beginning, 44 are fully authorized, so the budget has been fully approved and funded, and it's really up to, working on completing the construction to get that project past the finish line. Taking a look at the phase status, 24 are currently in the planning side, so that works on refining the scope, taking a look at making sure everything in the scope matches with what the goals of the project are, and making sure that everything that we're working on matches and will deliver those goals. 12 are currently in the design and engineering phase, so that is working with designers to build out and really get a more detailed look at what the cost and specifics of the project will look like. That's also typically where we get a more refined budget. 3 projects are currently in the contracting phase. That includes RFP and bidding. 43 are implementing, so that includes construction, but some projects don't include construction. Think ash tree management, think tech upgrades. So the implementing includes anything that's an ongoing active deployment. And 5 are finalizing, which includes just wrapping up the project, doing any last claims for grants, making sure everything's budgeted and balanced. All right, now let's go on to new proposals. That background there is the Beaver Lake Boardwalk, the new portion of the extension. I don't know if you guys have been out there yet. It opened on Memorial Day. I think it's pretty great. Number 1, building hazards remediation. So this project's going to support the identification and disposal of any potential hazardous materials in both the downtown complex and any county-owned facilities. Potential hazardous material could include asbestos, lead, PCBs, or anything else that doesn't meet modern compliance standards. The primary goal of this work is to protect the health of our workers, the county staff, as well as the public that come into our buildings to visit for services. And we also want to ensure compliance with any modern regulations, make sure our buildings are up to code and as safe as possible. In addition, this project aims to establish an ongoing remediation program, and the benefit of that is it can actually assist us with reducing unforeseen maintenance costs. So when facilities works on upgrading and maintaining our buildings, they could run into some of these potentially hazardous materials. So if we take a proactive approach and mitigate and manage the situation or any future potential situations, it could actually reduce costs for maintenance in the long run by keeping a strong and steady timeline for ongoing maintenance. Number 2, we have DSS improvements in the Civic Center. This would be upgrades to the 3rd and 5th floors of the Civic Center. Over the past couple of years, there's been a lot of work and renovation going on to the 2nd floor of the DSS programs. Floors 3 and 5 include SNAP, HEAP, TA undercare, and child care assistance. The scope focuses on upgrading furniture, carpeting, ceiling and tile, painting, lighting, and additional reconfiguration to improve the client-facing service as well as administrative operations. There are currently 106 county employees working on the 3rd floor, and there are 77 on the 5th floor. Overall goal of this project is to create a more functional environment and updating both the office and service layouts for all 183 employees included on both floors. This will be requested in 2028. So this is a bit further out on the horizon, but it's something to keep on the radar. Number 3, we have a comprehensive tech refresh project. The last time we did this was about 6 years ago, starting in 2019. This project will be a 3-year phased borrowing request starting in 2026. The primary goal of this project is to deploy new servers, computers, tablets, and other network devices for a more secure and reliable infrastructure for county services. It will help us maintain an accurate inventory system of our records, which will then in turn assist with the management and support life cycle and regulatory compliance. So we can be more proactive in terms of which devices are nearing the end of their useful life and take action on that. As well, we're looking to streamline the planning, procurement, and deployment process of upgrading our tech equipment to minimize delays and meet current and future demands for our workforce. Total project is $3.7 million. The first phase is $1.5 million that will be requested next year. Number 4, we have elections headquarter roof replacement. So the current location for Board of Elections was acquired in 2011 with its useful life of its roof at about 50%. In 2021, we began initial work, which included a partial roof replacement that focused on the most pressing locations of the roof, anything that was causing water damage or needed to be quickly addressed. In 2026, we propose to finish the job with this project and address the ongoing risks both to operations, equipment, and staff. This will replace the remaining deteriorated part of the roof to protect both, like I said, the equipment and interior. It will remain compliant with state and federal standards for election operations, and will support long-term reliability for the elections headquarter facility. Number 5, emergency management center renovations. So this was originally the Army Reserve that had an initial renovation project included in the facilities various in 2023. Work was conducted in 2023 and 24 using bond resolution number 10 of 2023 to convert the old Army Reserve into a usable and functional headquarters for our emergency management operations. Currently, there are 11 full-time employees and 25 part-time employees at the center. The primary goal of this project would be addressing the remaining work needed on the building that includes a roof replacement, HVAC system upgrades, lighting, restroom upgrades, and additional security upgrades. Also included in this scope is a 9,000 square foot unfinished space in the basement that we're looking to renovate into a usable training facility. This training would include simulations for drivers for fire, police, EMS. It would also have spaces for gatherings with our regional partners, think New York State or federal and Homeland Security, and additional CPR and AED training locations. Overall, we're looking to modernize this facility and grow the training opportunities that are beyond what our current capacity and operation county capabilities are for training. Number 6 is exterior lighting upgrades. So right now there's actually a lot of incandescent bulbs. This picture is actually just on the top of this building. We're looking to upgrade and expand the exterior lighting of our downtown complex. Think, Civic Center, War Memorial, Convention Center, the Carnegie Building. We're looking to upgrade that lighting with more modern LED energy efficient light bulbs that will assist with both safety and visibility as well as overall utility efficiency. This will, in more detail, install programmable RGB LED fixtures with a centralized control system, something we don't have right now with the incandescent bulbs, that will assist with remote scheduling and color changes. So think if we wanted to do a lighted up blue night, instead of having facilities staff go up onto the roof and replace the bulbs, we can just press a button. Overall, this will reduce long-term maintenance and utility costs by not having our facility staff have to go up there to change the bulbs, but also to have more long-lasting, useful life, and energy-efficient lighting systems. That will be a $500,000 borrowing request currently slated for next year. Number 7 is our New York State Courts Rehabilitation Project. So currently, Facilities Management acts as the landlord and the primary coordinator for New York State's unified court system. And being the landlord, they have the responsibility to deliver capital improvements that go beyond the typical routine maintenance required to upkeep the buildings. Work on this will be including office space renovations, modernizing restroom facilities, improving accessibility, sanitation, and appearance, as well as interior finishes, fixtures, technology, and lighting in the courtrooms. And given that we're doing this on behalf of the New York State Unified Court System, what this would entail is a $500,000 borrowing request next year, which would give us the budget and the spending power to proactively work on this for when the time comes to implement the scope. And then we would get reimbursed via claim with New York State. So it would be a net zero local dollar cost to us. The bond resolution would simply just act to give us the authority to initiate the project without timeline delays. Number 8, we have a radio GPS location systems integration. A lot of work's been going on with refreshing our emergency communication software. This is kind of involved with that, specifically the computer-aided dispatch system. So this is going to enhance both public and employee safety by enabling real-time tracking of location of the portable, wearable radios that law enforcement have. And it's going to integrate that radio data with the existing CAD mapping system via an API with a dedicated data channel. And it's going to assist with overall just transparency and the ability to track radios and have it speak with our existing systems. In addition, the ongoing maintenance costs covered under our existing contract with the CAD refresh project will cover the maintenance costs with this system vendor. So long-term maintenance costs are not going to be a significant worry with this project. Total project cost is estimated at $1.7 million. $1 million planning to be spent next year, the remaining in '27. We also budgeted $200,000 cash as we wrap up the project to offset any borrowing to reduce overall debt service. Number 9 is the Vesta 911 phone refresh system. So this is not a picture of our phone system, but I thought it was a prettier picture to include. It's one of our radios, radio towers. So the goal of this project is to upgrade both the hardware and software to ensure reliable call handling both at our primary location and our backup facilities. This will enhance system resiliency and performance with new workstations, servers, gateways, and switches, all the additional hardware required for this phone system. And it'll cover emergency service providers and the public with the latest technology for faster and more effective response. Total project costs will be $4 million. We are requesting a bond resolution in '26 for $4 million, but we plan to offset the cost with a $1.7 million New York State grant. So the actual local dollar amount will be about 2.25 of the actual bond resolution. So we're always working to pursue grant opportunities to reduce the need to borrow. That was a look at the 9 new proposals this year. Here's just a summary. Like I said, total 6-year cost, $19.2 million for these 9 projects, and we're looking at about 1.6% of the total proposed budget with those. Now, in regards to the other 76 active projects beyond just the 9 new proposed or the 8 completed, there have been a couple of additions and updates to the ongoing projects. Number 1 is the Beaver Lake Boardwalk. As I said, we completed the first section of the 3 sections of the boardwalk for the Lake Loop Trail. The update to that project is we're looking to finish the job by replacing sections 2 and 3. I'm also excited to report that on August 14th, New York State awarded us a Municipal Parks and Recreation, an NPR grant of $1 million, which was the exact projected cost for this. So we plan to, next year, request a bond resolution for $1 million to expedite the work on this project, and then in lieu of borrowing, claim the grant, so there will be no additional debt service required for that project. There are also some additional funds anticipated via fundraising with Friends of the Beaver Lake, just in case. For our Center for Forensic Sciences Labs, there's a feasibility study request that was added this year to the DNA lab. They want to do a feasibility study for overall format and see if there's potential to upgrade hardware, software, and overall reconfiguration of the space. This would be up to $50,000, but we are able to use the existing authorization and budgeted funds for this, so this is no new funding required for this feasibility study. Although we did put a potential $1.5 million in '27 for the work associated with the feasibility study and design, but that's a placeholder until we get closer to design and know what the actual results of that study would be. For our district heating and cooling plant upgrade project that's been in the book for a couple of years now, we added an additional 14,000-gallon fuel oil station that could be used as an alternative fuel source for heating our building. This would be about $500,000 added to that existing project. For facilities various, we added an emergency generator for backup power supply, which is $700,000. And for, I believe the last 11 years, the baseline borrowing request for facilities various has been $500,000. Just looking at inflation and overall costs, $500,000 is not the same as it was in 2014. So we've requested a baseline increase of $250,000, so the new baseline request would be $750,000. Hopkins Road Softball Park. I know just last month we had a committee meeting out there at the picnic tables. It was a beautiful day. This project's been in the book for a couple of years. The first phase of this project was funded in 2019, $1.4 million, and that was primarily focused on lighting replacement and upgrades, repaving, and various repairs to the facilities out there. Currently, there's a $7 million grant project separate from the capital improvement plan that just on September 2nd, we had authorized a move from contingency to fund, and that's going towards the super turf field. So this year, we added 2 additional phases to the capital side of work, not the grant side, from that existing project. Phase 2 would be $6.7 million in 2027 that would focus on a new concessions building, additional storage opportunities, an additional entrance out there, plus parking, expansion, and further repaving. Phase 3 is currently slated for 2028, and that would include a second super turf field. For parks, various, there's a number of updates in there. So at Beaver Lake, there was a $25,000 addition there for repairing the gift shop roof, an additional $20,000 to increase the signage and visibility on the trails out there at Beaver Lake. At Highland Forest, there's a $1.5 million request. I believe this is either in 27 or 28, so it's still on the horizon. A community shelter area upgrade there. At Janesville Beach, I know you guys have probably seen on the news at least 4 times this season, Janesville Beach had to shut down due to issues of blue-green algae. And so we wanted to prioritize this, and we're adding this to next year's Parks Various borrowing request of an initial $200,000 to work on mitigation options. So this goes beyond just the testing for the safety and closure of the beach, but we're actually looking at mitigation efforts to see what we can do, what partners we can work with, potential aeration systems to see how we can tackle the situation long term. Onondaga Lake, we're looking to replace the Willow Bay Playground, so that's towards the western end of Onondaga Lake, towards the end, right where we get to that one-way bridge. We're looking to replace that playground. And we're also looking to add and upgrade security cameras towards the entrances by Wegmans Park. Last but not least, in Parks Various, Otisco Lake, we're looking to expand and repave that parking lot. And then last but not least on the addition upgrade and updates here is the largest project by far in the CIP, and that is the Oak Orchard project with an updated revised scope. So I'm going to dedicate this entire next slide just so we can focus on that, what the dollars mean, where they're going, why we're investing in this, and how we're going to pay for it. So Oak Orchard Wastewater Treatment Plant services the town of Clay and much of the northern region in our county. It was built in 1981 with a capacity for 10 million gallons per day, or MGD. Currently, because this is not a perfect world and the system is aging, and we're always working on trying to maintain it, the current capacity as of today is at 6.7 million gallons per day, and the average use per day is 5.5. So we are pretty much nearing capacity at this facility. And what does that mean? That means that we cannot pursue large housing development projects, and we cannot support both commercial and industrial development in that area without taking a serious look at that facility and expanding it. Like I said, this has been in the book for about 6 years, so this has been a long effort and a long time in the making to get this just right, to finalize the scope and get precisely the right amount of capacity that we need to meet current demands, future demands, support residential housing growth in the Consolidated Sewer District, the CSD, while also supporting commercial and industrial growth like Micron. In 2022, this project received an initial $30 million authorization for the planning and design. We've been working with multiple consultants and looking at every option possible to both meet future demand for housing to support residential growth in the area, in addition commercial growth and industrial growth at White Pines. And we've refined the scope so it'll now meet this current ask will be 15 million gallons a day with the potential to grow up to 20 and further aspirations to grow it even beyond that. But currently we're looking at an increase of the current capacity of 6.7 to 15. So that can support residential growth, avoid any potential housing moratoriums on housing development, while also supporting commercial growth and growth at the White Pine location. The scope also includes pilot test equipment that'll work on cyclical and trend patterns for testing of the water so we can be more prepared for pre-treatment and treatment services. And it includes additional power and gas needs. So I don't know if you guys recall, about 3 months ago, a car hit a utility pole outside Oak Orchard, and it caused some delays in situations. So baked into this scope is additional utility resiliency so we can have a more structured and reliable power supply and gas needs as we expand this facility. In terms of oversight for this project, we're going to conduct, of course, a SEQR, a State Environmental Quality Review. The department will prepare a map planning report that'll be comprised into a commissioner's hearing that'll be publicly available. There'll be a commissioner's report. This legislative body will vote on a public hearing and a public comment period. There will also be, under district proceedings, an approval of the project and then the bond resolution. So there's multiple steps for public comment, public input, and as we get closer to the time where we're asking for this bond resolution, there'll be multiple opportunities to see where exactly this is going. In addition to this, we have also allocated $2 million of cash for capital to offset potential borrowing. specifically for some of the additional design phase. When it comes to design, we're looking at a shorter period of probable use, or PPU, which means the time we can pay back that debt is shorter, and that impacts our debt service and the operating. So in order to avoid a significant hit on the shorter-term borrowing requirements, we're investing $2 million of cash in lieu of borrowing to assist with site preparation. In terms of investment for Micron, this is kind of a two-tiered system. So in the book, you're seeing the Oak Orchard Municipal Project, which is what I'm covering on. In addition to this, there will be a project for the industrial treatment side of that. That's not yet in the book. We're still working on the funding plan. We're working on a more specific timeline, as well as working at every opportunity for grant opportunities, low-interest financing with EFC, and any other type of debt structure we can. So that's not ready yet, but that will also be on the horizon. For the CIP and for this discussion, we're focusing just on the municipal piece, which is primarily being used to support residential growth and any sanitary needs, both commercially and industrially at White Pine. In terms of funding requests, here is a look over the last 10 years at what has been requested from the legislature for bond resolutions. 2023 was the 10-year high for borrowing requests. We started seeing the growth of borrowing requests in 2022. 2021 was pretty small because of the pandemic. In 2022, that fund includes $30 million for the Oak Orchard design I mentioned, $16 million for the White Pine pump station, which is a conveyance system from the White Pine industrial site to Oak Orchard, and $15 million for redevelopment of OCC's School of Health, which is an ongoing project. In 2023 there, we see that total of $175.2 million. Of that amount, $70 million comes from the Metro Wastewater Treatment Plant Annex renewal. That's another ongoing project. We're currently working on, I believe, the main substation there. We also had $25 million for the Lake Creek and Liverpool Forest Main in 23, and we had $60 million for significant upgrades to the Baldwinsville Seneca Knolls wastewater treatment plant. So that accounts for those increases you see in 22 and 23. The last 2 years have been pretty steady at about $104 million total bond authorization requested. Let's look at our debt position. So I mentioned at the beginning, we're at currently 11.3% of our debt limit utilized. Debt limit comes from the 5-year average of our full real value property. In 2025, the full value of real property in the county is at $44.1 billion, which is 10% over what it was in 2024. The last 4 years have seen just about 10% growth in our real property value as well. So that's where we're getting that 5-year average of 36.3. Of that amount, 7% is what is defined as our debt limit in New York State's local finance law. So we're seeing our debt limit currently at $2.5 billion. In 2024, it was 2.3, so this year marks a 9% increase in our debt limit capacity. If we look at our scheduled debt, less anything that we can exclude under local finance law, so that includes water debt and sewer debt, so any projects that the state comptroller has reviewed and certified as excludable, we can exclude in this calculation under our state law. That gets us to our number of 11.3% utilized. This year, we're planning an issuance of 84.7, which is a little bit less than last year's. If we look at that, less the amount that's included for sewer, that would be about 2.8% of an increase to the amount utilized. So that issuance is to occur in the next couple of months. If we were to authorize, issue everything that we're requesting for 2026 that's being proposed in this book, that would account for less than 0.5% of the debt limit being utilized. And if we were, for some reason, to authorize and issue everything that has received a bond resolution that's out there by the end of next year, that would account for a little over 4.5%. So the absolute maximum debt limit, if we were to include our current amount, plus what we plan to issue this year, plus what we propose for next year, plus if for some reason we were to issue everything we possibly could, we'd be looking at less than 20% of our debt limit. Here's a look at our debt position over the last 10 years as well to give you context. As you can see, last year there was a significant dip from 21.5% to 11.05%. That's accounted by the fact that our finance team has retroactively worked really hard reviewing all the bond resolutions and all of the financing that we've done for our sewer fund and water fund projects. We worked with our financial advisors as well as the Office of State Comptroller, and we were able to retroactively get all of those excluded. So that's where you're starting to see that dip, which gives us a better debt limit utilization percentage of 11.3% today. I'll also note that we are currently working on exempting debt from 2024's WEP, and just this month we had WEP's bond resolutions, so those will also be submitted to Office of the State Comptroller for exclusion. Let's take a look at cash flow now. So this is what's moving in and out of the capital projects. So in the blue there, that's what I had already reflected of what's been authorized by the legislature for borrowing, which sets what the budgets are for these projects. The green there is all the revenue that's coming in to the capital project specifically. This includes GO issuance, so general obligation issuance. It includes EFC financing, so New York State Environmental Facilities offers low interest financing. It also includes any grants that we've collected specifically for capital projects and the use of cash for capital. In the gray there, we're seeing all actual expenses that have occurred in the capital projects. So as you can see, in 22 and 23, like I mentioned, we had an increase in the borrowing requests. And then in 24 and 25, when the year is over, you're going to start seeing that reflected in both the revenue column and the expense columns. The annual average bond resolution request over the last 10 years has been about $88 million a year. The average recognized revenue for capital projects has been about $100 million a year. Average expenses that we're seeing over the last 10 years in capital projects is $93 million. And also I'll just say in 2024, a lot of those expenses are also for the STEAM school, of which we anticipate reimbursement for the debt service on that project. Yeah.
You mind?
Dave?
Okay. When you talk about expenses, are you talking about costs associated with the project or actual dollars out the door? Like that?
Actual dollars out the door. So
Okay.
There's purchase orders and requisitions that are in place based on the budget and anticipated expenses. But that gray column there is looking at actual expenses that are out the door that we have paid to vendors or contractors.
Okay, so that 2024 number for the STEAM school, a large portion of that was spent in 25, so a big portion of that's going to be in 25, right?
Correct. So that gray area, that gray column we're seeing is a year-to-date as of July. So by the end of the year, that will increase to be at or below, just below what we were seeing in 24. So the total project cost for the STEAM school is about $89.5. Majority of that was authorized in 22, I believe, and then last year we had an additional 15.5. That they just opened their doors a couple of weeks ago, which is exciting to see. Work is starting to wrap up on that project, but majority of that expense was in 24, and we'll see in 25 as it wraps up.
Okay, thank you.
Here's an overview of what was requested this year and approved for borrowing. Majority of the funding was the 55.45 we saw for WEP projects. 23 projects in total received borrowing authorizations this year at a maximum total of $104.2 million, which is just about on par with the $104.1 from last year. In addition to this, our team's done a lot of work in terms of upgrading and managing our databases for debt service and bond resolutions, and we've been able to be more proactive and effective at keeping the authorized amount at a net while making sure the existing authorizations serve us in the capital projects effectively. For example, to put that in perspective, in May of this year, Bond Resolution 43 of 2025 authorized the repurposing of $2.97 million from the North Area Maintenance Facility project to various DOT maintenance facilities. So rather than seek additional borrowing authorization, increase our authorized borrowing amount and potential maximum debt limit, we were able to repurpose existing authorizations through an amendatory resolution, saving $2.97 million from additional requests. And just this month, on September 2nd, there was an amendatory resolution of 2011-494, which is for the Central Library project, which authorized about $6.5 million, I believe. Remaining from that project, we had about $653,000 just sitting in that project. So rather than asking for an additional borrowing request and do additional borrowing to complete the Pettit Branch community room project, we were able to repurpose the existing revenue and bond authorization from that project for the library. So that's another net zero authorized amount, while making it work for us to improve the library and improve our maintenance facilities. And that's something that we're looking at trying to do more of in the future, making use of our existing authorizations and being more effective with them. Here's a look at 2026. As you can see, like I mentioned, 81% of that entire request is coming from the Oak Orchard. Not all that's going to be spent in 26, obviously, nor will it be issued. It'll be issued over a number of years using strategic financing opportunities, low-interest financing with EFC, as well as structured maturity levels to reduce any spikes we're seeing in debt service in the operating funds. We're also seeing that helicopter amount there for sheriffs. 6.75 is anticipated in March of 2026 as a borrowing request. So that would be the bond resolution for the bond for the purchase power. It's a 2-year lead time to purchase the helicopter, so we wouldn't see the helicopter until about 28, after which we would sell the existing Air One helicopter. Currently, that's estimated at $1.2 million. So if we were to add a 3% increase to the current quote from 25 for purchasing the helicopter, plus reducing the current value of the helicopter once we actually sell it, we're looking at about $5.5 million in actual bond issuance. So while we're asking for 6.75 in the bond resolution in order to proceed with buying the helicopter and starting that 2-year lead time, that's not the amount we anticipate for actual bond issuance and debt service. Same goes for E911, the Vesta project. Like I said, that's going to be offset with the grant. Beaver Lake, like I said, just received a grant through the NPR with New York State's grant system. And we're always working to pursue grants. So that, plus our approach of making use of authorized and existing projects, we're trying to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollars and be as effective as possible with borrowing requests, authorizations, and actual issuance, which leads to debt service. So, like I said last year, I'll conclude by just saying the road to success is always under construction. I'd like to thank the legislature for its continued support of these investments and initiatives. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions and further discussion.
Julie?
Thank you very much. I just wanted to make sure I'm understanding one thing in regards to debt service. So 2023, were we not submitting for exclusions like the sewer and the water to the state to qualify for exclusions? Is that what you meant?
I'm not sure how it's been done in past years, but I think there was a baseline amount that was used in the inclusion based on what's been spent with WEP. But as we become more proactive, both in past years, working retroactively with our fiscal advisors, working with the state comptroller, and moving forward, any and all WEP bond resolutions for capital projects that are excludable, we are submitting and working with the state comptrollers to make sure they get certified.
Okay, thank you.
Dan?
I have a couple of questions. How do you, or can you factor in revenue associated with capital projects in terms of offsetting that debt limit? Do you do that? So for
Yeah. That's a great question. So projects that receive bond authorization. So let's look at the county security improvements project, for example. That had a period of probable use from our bond council and is determined by law of 5 years, which means we have up to 5 years to pay back the debt on that. And let's say we were to issue $2 million on that, but then the actual project spends $1.6 million. We have about $400,000 left. There's a few options we could do with that. Number one is we could pursue an amendatory bond resolution to see if that money could be reallocated to another project or a project with a similar scope. Or another thing that we do is reserve for bonded debt, RBD. So that's the actual expenses we're seeing in debt service. We apply RBD, which includes any unspent proceeds from bond issuance. So that would be that $400,000 could be moved into a subsidiary, and that subsidiary could be then applied to future debt service, either for that project, for that issuance of projects, or for that department. and that could offset interest in the future on those projects. So if there's remaining bonds, remaining grants, or remaining cash, we could put that into an RBD, which gets baked in with return on investments and other revenue sources, and that is used to offset future interest on that debt. So you'll see that in the 2026 budget, that what's currently scheduled is actually more than what we're paying, what's actually going out the door because of our use of moving remaining funds on some of these projects. We move the funds to RBD, we close them if they're not applicable to other projects, and then we use that to serve and reduce interest costs.
Okay, thank you. And my other one is the aquarium's not in here.
No.
Can you tell me why?
Yes, that's 100% using the ARPA funds. So there's no borrowing requests in that. There's no grants that we have to claim off of that. So it's 100% using ARPA. So given the nature of that project, it's not really something that's included in the book.
But there's other projects in here that only use cash capital. Oh, because wasn't there cash associated with that?
That was ARPA. That was the use of ARPA that was voted on, and I
Only
believe
ARPA.
either 22 or 23 we moved from contingency. So that did not require a borrowing request, nor did it require grant claims, so it's not really in the scope of what's, yeah.
Here. So it's not included in the CIP book because there was no bond authorization.
Microphone,
There is
Christie.
cash in the CIP.
We can't hear you that good. Could you just talk a little bit louder? Thanks.
So if there's no bonding authorization asked for, then it's not really in the CIP. So we've done all of cash, obviously use the cash in the CIP, but there has to be some sort of bond authorization included in there.
The clerk's office project, though, only shows cash capital.
Yeah, for that project, we actually did get a bond resolution in March of this year for $500,000, which streamlined the process, and it gave us the budget and authorized spending power. For that project, we intend to use cash in lieu of borrowing, but that did receive a borrowing request.
Got it. So it was in there because initially it was borrowing, but now it says
Correct.
cash just because that has changed in that time period.
Yes. So as a part of the overview section of the book, any project that's $500,000 or less, we try to offset that with cash. So we might receive a bond resolution in order to initiate the project, set up its budget, but long-term, we don't want to issue projects for $500,000 for debt service when we can offset that with cash.
Understood. And sorry, I have one more. In looking at the Oak Orchard project and talking about the industrial side of it that's going to be coming, are we going to be able to have significant savings because those two are going to kind of overlap when we talk about facilities? Or is this going to be the industrial side of it completely independent of?
So the municipal piece is in this book. The industrial is still in development. I'll turn that to Christy on updates with that structure.
You can't get it right.
Let's see if I can short this one out. So more to come on that. So we're still working on the design and consultant. So yes, we're trying to obviously see if there's applicabilities across that, but we're not far enough along in the design process to give you full details on that. So more to come on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Charles?
Yes, thank you. With the VESTA, the 911 system, will that address that problem that we had previously? And will there be any, guarantee that it isn't going to happen again when you had a lot of people, they were calling the 911s, and it was a blackout, so to speak?
Is Julie here? I would ask that the department speak on the details of that scope because they would have additional context to better answer that.
Okay.
She's right there.
Good morning. So the VESTA system is a necessary upgrade. That's something that, this is a critical infrastructure piece of our department, and it allows the phone system to work properly. So it has nothing to do per se with improving our ability to answer phone calls. That's all about people and our ability to have enough people to answer phone calls. This is the infrastructure we need to give them the tool they need to provide that service.
Okay, thank you, because I wasn't sure if that was actual people, or if that was, AI or something like that, and anything we were investing in moving ahead would...
No, the VESTA is specifically focused on the hardware and software upgrades, not AI initiatives or changes to the process.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Questions? No, Disha? No? Anyone else on the CIP? No? Okay. We're all set. Thank you, Dan.
All right, thank you very much.
So that is the end of today, and we will meet back here tomorrow at 9:30 for the comptroller's office. Thank you.